Hollywood loves a good illusion, flawless stars, perfect lives, and timeless legacies. But behind the golden glow of the spotlight are stories the studios tried to bury. From disturbing crimes to explosive tempers, these celebrities weren't just controversial. They became some of the most hated figures in entertainment history. This list doesn't just name names, it rips away the curtain on 20 iconic stars whose legacies are tainted by
scandal, abuse, betrayal,
or behavior so toxic, it made even their biggest fans turn away. These aren't just fall from grace moments. They're the cautionary tales Hollywood doesn't want you to remember. Number 1 on the list is Roman Polanski. He is one of Hollywood's most polarizing figures. Celebrated for his directing talent, he's equally infamous for his criminal past. In 1977, Polanski was arrested and charged with 6 felony counts after he drugged and sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl, Samantha Gailey, now Geimer. He initially pleaded not guilty, but later took a plea deal for unlawful intercourse with a minor. Before sentencing, Polanski fled the U.S. to avoid prison and has lived in France ever since, avoiding extradition. His fugitive status sparked decades of legal and cultural controversy. While some in the film industry have defended his artistic legacy, many believe he should face justice. Further damaging his reputation, other women later accused him of similar crimes, which he denied. Polanski's case remains one of the most notorious in Hollywood history, forever blurring the line between genius and criminal. Next up is Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was a major star during Hollywood's golden age, known for his gruff charm on screen, but behind the scenes, he had a far darker reputation. Beery was notorious for his violent temper, and many co-stars and even family members accused him of being abusive and volatile. His second wife, actress Rita Gilman, publicly accused him of physical abuse, which contributed to their divorce. One of the most disturbing rumors surrounding Beery involves the death of comedian Ted Healy, creator of The Three Stooges. Witnesses claim Beery was part of a violent confrontation with Healy shortly before Healy's sudden death in 1937. Though no charges were filed and details remain murky, the incident tainted Beery's image for life. On top of that, there were whispers that Beery's neglect contributed to the failing health of his brother, Noah Beery Sr., though those claims are unproven. Regardless, Beery's legacy is a blend of on-screen success and off-screen scandal, making him one of the more quietly reviled figures of early Hollywood. Next on the list is Jerry Lee Lewis. A rock and roll pioneer famous for hits like Great Balls of Fire, was just as explosive in his personal life as he was on stage, and not in a good way. In 1957, Lewis caused international outrage when he married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown. Even worse, he was 22 at the time and still technically married to his previous wife. The scandal came to light during a tour in England and nearly destroyed his career. That was just the beginning. Lewis was married 7 times, with many of his marriages marked by allegations of abuse, chaos, and substance use. His volatile behavior and repeated brushes with the law made him a tabloid fixture. He battled alcoholism and drug addiction, which impacted both his music and personal relationships. Though his influence on rock and roll is undeniable, Jerry Lee Lewis's life was riddled with scandal, making him one of music's most controversial and hated icons. Right after is another Jerry Lewis. Not to be confused with Jerry Lee Lewis, the legendary comedian Jerry Lewis, known for his slapstick humor and philanthropic work, also had a darker side that tarnished his reputation. While he was a groundbreaking entertainer in the face of the muscular dystrophy telethon for decades, Lewis was infamously difficult to work with, often described as abrasive, controlling, and egotistical on set. His behavior toward women especially came under fire. He publicly dismissed the talent of female comedians and was accused of sexist, inappropriate behavior with female co-stars. Despite his charity work, many in the disability rights community criticized him for portraying those with muscular dystrophy as objects of pity rather than empowerment. On a personal level, he was estranged from several of his children, some of whom accused him of emotional neglect. When Lewis died, he made headlines again for cutting 5 of his 6 sons out of his will, deepening the impression of him as a man whose public persona was vastly different from who he was in private. Okay, so the 5th place is reserved for Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling heartthrob of classic Hollywood films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, was as wild off-screen as he was dashing on it, and not in a flattering way. In 1942, Flynn was charged with statutory rape by 2 underage girls. Though he was ultimately acquitted, the scandal seriously damaged his reputation, and cast a long shadow over his legacy. Flynn was also notorious for his hedonistic lifestyle, marked by heavy drinking, drug use, and a long list of affairs. His posthumously published memoir, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, only confirmed the rumors of a life lived on the edge. To make matters worse, he was rumored to have sympathies with the Nazi regime, due to his close friendship with known Nazi supporter Dr. Hermann Urban. While those claims were never proven, they added to the cloud of suspicion surrounding him. In debt for much of his life and frequently in legal trouble, Flynn became a symbol of the dark underbelly of fame. Someone who lived for pleasure, regardless of the consequences. Next up is Clara Bow. The original it girl of the silent film era, was a trailblazer in early Hollywood, but also one of its most relentlessly scandalized stars. While she captivated audiences with her charm and beauty, the press ruthlessly picked apart her personal life, often fabricating or exaggerating stories to sell tabloids. She became the target of rumors about promiscuity, affairs, and wild partying, much of it driven by the aggressive and sexist tabloid journalism of the 1920s and 30s. Many of these allegations were unverified, but they stuck, creating a public image of Clara as reckless and troubled. Behind the scenes, Bow suffered immensely. She battled insomnia, depression, and schizophrenia, conditions that were misunderstood and stigmatized at the time. Her finances were also mishandled by handlers and secretaries, leading to legal disputes, including one major lawsuit against a secretary who embezzled her money. Bow's traumatic upbringing, including an abusive mother who once tried to kill her, only added to the pain. Though she helped define the modern Hollywood starlet, the intense exploitation and lack of support she received made her one of the most tragically mistreated icons of early cinema. Number 7 is for Joan Crawford. She was one of the most glamorous and respected actresses of her time, but after her death, her legacy took a devastating hit. In 1978, her adopted daughter, Christina Crawford, published the explosive memoir, Mommy Dearest, which portrayed Joan as a cruel, controlling, and abusive mother. The book described a nightmarish upbringing filled with emotional manipulation, physical violence, and obsessive control. One infamous scene involved Joan screaming about wire hangers, later dramatized in the 1981 film adaptation starring Faye Dunaway, a performance that burned this version of Joan into pop culture memory. Crawford had carefully curated a public image as a devoted mother and consummate professional, so the memoir shocked fans. While some of her other children defended her, others supported Christina's version, deepening the divide. To many, Joan Crawford became the ultimate example of a celebrity whose polished public persona masked deep dysfunction behind closed doors. And the legacy of Mommy Dearest ensured she would always be remembered not just as a star, but as a villain in her own family's story. Next up is Frank Sinatra. I'm pretty sure he was one of the most beloved voices in American music history, but off stage, his life was tangled in controversy, aggression, and mob ties. Sinatra's close associations with known mafia figures, like Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana, drew FBI attention and public suspicion, even though he always denied involvement in organized crime. He was also infamous for his volatile temper. Whether it was assaulting photographers, throwing tantrums at reporters, or engaging in physical altercations, Sinatra didn't shy away from confrontation. His romantic life was equally stormy, marked by jealousy, affairs, and toxic relationships, most notably with actress Ava Gardner. On the political front, Sinatra's shifting allegiances, from Democratic backer of JFK to staunch supporter of Ronald Reagan, left many questioning his motives and loyalties. His attempt to maintain influence over powerful people fueled a reputation for arrogance and manipulation. Though Sinatra remains an American icon, his behind-the-scenes behavior has led many to see him as a brilliant artist who could also be a bully, making his legacy as complicated as his life. 9th place is reserved for James Dean. He is remembered as a tragic icon, a symbol of youthful rebellion and emotional depth, but his reckless lifestyle and defiant attitude made him controversial even before his untimely death. Best known for Rebel Without a Cause, Dean quickly became the face of teenage angst in 1950s America. Off-screen, he was often seen as moody, difficult, and aloof. His intense dedication to method acting earned him respect, but also alienated colleagues who found him hard to work with. Dean was infamous for taking unnecessary risks, especially with his obsession for car racing. Friends and studios worried about his disregard for safety. That recklessness ultimately cost him his life. At just 24 years old, Dean died in a high-speed crash while driving his Porsche 550 Spider, a car ominously nicknamed Little Bastard. His death cemented his legend, but also left a lingering sense that he was reckless, not just misunderstood. Dean's short life continues to captivate fans, but many also view him as a talented star who burned too fast and lived too carelessly. When the next one showed up, so did the chaos. Nicknamed the King of Cool, Steve McQueen was the ultimate anti-hero of his era, rugged, rebellious, and undeniably charismatic. But behind the scenes, he was known for being difficult, demanding, and even dangerous. McQueen had a troubled childhood, spending time in reform school, and that rebelliousness carried into adulthood. He was deeply involved in car and motorcycle racing, living fast both on screen and off. On set, he had a reputation for being stubborn and controlling, often clashing with directors and insisting on creative input over his characters. In his personal life, McQueen was married 3 times, with several of those relationships described as toxic and abusive. Allegations of physical violence and substance abuse followed him throughout his career, and his alcohol and drug use became more pronounced later in life. Though adored by fans for films like Bullitt and The Great Escape, McQueen's uncompromising attitude and volatile behavior made him a nightmare to work with and cast a long shadow over his otherwise legendary career. Next is one of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars, Greta Garbo, famous not only for her beauty and talent, but also for her obsession with privacy. Known for her line, "I want to be alone," Garbo became a mystery the public couldn't stop chasing. But that same mystery bred resentment and rumors. After retiring from acting at the height of her fame, Garbo avoided the spotlight entirely. She declined interviews, skipped public events, and distanced herself from fans. Some admired this as artistic independence, but others saw it as coldness or arrogance. Despite reportedly being generous to those in her inner circle and involved in private charity work, speculation swirled about her personal life. Her refusal to share details only fueled conspiracy theories and harsh character judgments, with some critics calling her emotionally distant, difficult, or even mean-spirited. While not involved in any major scandal, Garbo's extreme reclusiveness made her a figure of suspicion in a town built on visibility. And over time, that made her one of the most controversial and misunderstood legends of the Golden Age. Next is Robert Mitchum. He was the quintessential tough guy of Hollywood's film noir era. But that hardened image wasn't just for the screen. Known for his deep voice, brooding looks, and laid-back delivery, Mitchum also developed a reputation as a rebellious, volatile figure behind the scenes. In 1948, he was arrested for marijuana possession, a serious offense at the time, but which landed him briefly in jail and nearly ended his career. Though he bounced back, the arrest cemented his bad boy reputation in both the media and the minds of moviegoers. There were also troubling allegations of domestic abuse, particularly involving his wife. While never publicly tried for these incidents, they added to a pattern of troubling behavior. Mitchum was known for his contempt for Hollywood's rules, openly mocking the industry and displaying a cynical, anti-authority attitude. Despite the controversy, his acting legacy remains strong. But for many, Mitchum is remembered as a complicated figure, an icon of cool masculinity whose personal flaws often blurred with his most famous roles. Number 13 is for Faye Dunaway. She is a critically acclaimed actress, celebrated for powerful performances in films like Bonnie and Clyde and Chinatown. But her talent has often been overshadowed by a reputation for being extremely difficult to work with. Dunaway's colleagues have described her as demanding, temperamental, and combative on set. Her intense dedication to her roles sometimes crossed the line into hostility, with frequent reports of tension between her and co-stars, directors, and crew. Her behavior during the filming of Mommy Dearest, ironically a film about abusive motherhood, was especially notorious. She allegedly alienated cast and crew by staying in character off-camera and creating a tense environment throughout production. In 2019, Dunaway was fired from a Broadway play after allegedly creating a hostile work environment, including accusations of slapping a crew member. While undeniably one of the most iconic actresses of her generation, Dunaway's difficult personality and long history of on-set conflict have earned her a spot on Hollywood's blacklist, and, in the eyes of many, its most unmanageable stars. Next up is Mickey Rooney. He was one of Hollywood's earliest and most famous child stars, especially known for his wholesome role as Andy Hardy. But behind that cheerful screen persona was a life filled with scandal, instability, and personal chaos. Rooney was married 8 times, and nearly all of those relationships were plagued by infidelity, abuse, or bitter breakups. His repeated marital failures became tabloid fodder, turning him into a punchline as much as a performer. His finances were just as messy. Despite earning millions, Rooney declared bankruptcy in 1962, blaming poor financial management by family and advisors. Later in life, he became a cautionary tale about how child stars are exploited, even testifying before Congress about elder abuse he experienced from a stepson who allegedly controlled his money and mistreated him. Though he had a long and successful career, Rooney's reputation was marred by personal dysfunction, volatile relationships, and a trail of controversy, turning the once beloved star into a symbol of how fame can destroy from the inside out. At number 15 comes John Wayne. John Wayne was a towering figure in American cinema, famous for his rugged cowboy roles and patriotic war films. But his personal views and public statements have made him one of the most divisive stars in Hollywood history. The most damning stain on his legacy came from a 1971 Playboy interview where he made openly racist and white supremacist remarks, expressing a lack of regret about the treatment of Native Americans, and stating he believed in white dominance until Black people were educated to a point of responsibility. Beyond his words, Wayne frequently played roles that stereotyped and villainized minorities, particularly Native Americans. His political stances were also controversial. A staunch anti-communist, Wayne supported the Hollywood blacklist during the McCarthy era, contributing to the careers of countless actors and writers being destroyed without cause. For many, John Wayne is no longer just a symbol of classic Americana. He's a representation of Hollywood's racist past and a cautionary tale about the damage done when fame is used to justify prejudice. Number 16 is for the most fun name to pronounce, Zsa Zsa Gabor. She was the queen of glamour and gossip, known as much for her dazzling lifestyle and witty one-liners as for her acting. But beneath the diamonds and headlines was a celebrity who many saw as vain, entitled, and out of control. She was married 9 times, turning her romantic chaos into a public spectacle. Her multiple divorces and flamboyant persona made her a frequent target of tabloids, and Gabor didn't shy away from using her private life for media attention. Her most infamous scandal came in 1989, when she slapped a Beverly Hills police officer during a traffic stop. She was convicted of assault, driving without a license, and open alcohol possession, a flask in her Rolls Royce. Instead of showing remorse, she leaned into the controversy, making it part of her brand. Though some saw her as harmlessly eccentric, others viewed Gabor as the embodiment of fame gone to one's head, an over-the-top diva who blurred the line between celebrity and caricature. Next up is Bing Crosby, the crooner behind White Christmas and a symbol of mid-century American warmth, had a public image of the ideal family man. But his private life, especially as a father, told a very different story. In 1983, his eldest son, Gary Crosby, released a memoir titled Going My Own Way, in which he accused Bing of being physically and emotionally abusive. Gary described severe beatings, humiliation, and a home life that was the complete opposite of the gentle, smiling father figure Bing portrayed on screen and radio. Some of Bing's other children backed Gary's claims, while others defended their father, creating a publicly fractured family narrative. Regardless, the allegations were enough to taint Crosby's legacy, especially as they contrasted so starkly with his wholesome public image. Professionally, Crosby was a perfectionist and a control freak, which made him difficult to work with at times. Despite his revolutionary contributions to recording technology and music, the image of a strict, authoritarian parent has lingered and continues to complicate his place in entertainment history. Okay, so number 18 is for Lana Turner. She was one of Hollywood's most glamorous and recognizable faces, but her off-screen life was a whirlwind of scandal, violence, and heartbreak. The most shocking chapter came in 1958, when her abusive lover, Johnny Stompanato, a mob-connected thug, was stabbed to death by Turner's 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane. The killing was ruled a justifiable homicide, as Cheryl was protecting her mother during a violent confrontation. But the case captivated and divided the public. The scandal cemented Turner's reputation as a magnet for personal drama. Turner had 8 marriages to 7 men, along with countless publicized affairs. The tabloids feasted on her love life, often portraying her as unstable and reckless. As her fame faded, she turned to alcohol, and her battles with addiction and depression further damaged her once immaculate star image. Though undeniably talented and influential in shaping Hollywood's golden age, Lana Turner's life was marked by tragedy and controversy, leaving many to remember her as a star whose beauty masked a storm beneath the surface. Next up is Spencer Tracy. He was one of classic Hollywood's most respected actors, known for his powerful performances and 2 Academy Awards. But behind the camera, his personal life was marked by emotional complexity, addiction, and hypocrisy. Though married to Louise Treadwell for life, Tracy famously had a decades-long affair with actress Katharine Hepburn, a relationship that was an open secret in Hollywood. Due to his Catholic faith, he never divorced his wife, creating a dual life dynamic that many saw as dishonest or cowardly. Tracy also battled alcoholism for most of his career, which contributed to frequent mood swings, unreliability, and tense working environments. While his co-stars often praised his raw talent and ability to deliver under pressure, many noted that his off-screen demeanor could be gruff, irritable, and controlling. As his health declined in later years, Tracy became increasingly reclusive, and his inner demons began to overshadow his public reputation. For many, he remains a case study in how greatness on screen doesn't always match the person behind it. Last but not least is Marlon Brando. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest actors of all time, but his brilliance came with a trail of chaos, controversy, and cruelty that made him infamously difficult in both professional and personal circles. On set, Brando was notorious for his refusal to memorize lines, reliance on cue cards, and disregard for production schedules. His behavior caused massive delays and conflicts with directors and co-stars, especially during later films like Apocalypse Now and The Island of Dr. Moreau. His personal life was equally explosive. He had multiple tumultuous relationships, at least 11 children, and was surrounded by family tragedy, including the murder of his daughter's boyfriend by his son and his daughter's eventual suicide. Brando's family life was seen as chaotic and heartbreaking. Perhaps most damning was his involvement in the film Last Tango in Paris, where a controversial scene involving simulated non-consensual sex was filmed without fully informing actress Maria Schneider. Brando and director Bernardo Bertolucci later admitted this was intentional, sparking global backlash, years of criticism over ethical abuse in filmmaking. Though his talent is legendary, Brando's legacy is forever clouded by egotism, manipulation, and moments that cross the line from difficult to dangerous. Fame doesn't just build legends, it hides monsters. Behind the red carpets and golden statues are stories Hollywood hopes you'll forget. Tales of shattered families, ruined lives, silenced victims, and egos so bloated they drowned out basic humanity. And yet, these weren't just one-off scandals. These were patterns of power unchecked, charm weaponized, and fame used like a shield. Apologies were rare. Accountability? Even rarer. What this list shows isn't just who fell from grace. It shows that some were never worthy of the pedestal to begin with. Because at the end of the day, it's not the script or the spotlight that defines you, it's who you are when the cameras stop rolling.